And I realized that in order for me to stop subjecting myself to bare minimum experiences, I had to stop faking like I was low maintenance. I had to raise the bar a little bit. Don't be dumbing yourself down for men. Make them come up and get it. Hey girl, welcome back to my channel. My name is Trinity. If you're new here, today we're going to be talking about things that I stopped doing in order to live a happier life. But before we get into it, let's do a few updates. First off, y'all favorite hairstyle is back. The dark hair did not last as long as I thought it was going to, but it's okay. Secondly, I want to thank y'all so much because I hit 35k subscribers last week, and the fact that 35,000 people like my videos enough to subscribe makes me feel so warm inside. And I really feel good because I came into 2023 with less than 200 subscribers. I didn't even hit 1,000 subscribers until June. So I have basically gotten, sorry, I'm looking at my phone, 37,000-ish, a little over 37,000 in 6 months. Crazy. Thank y'all so much for every like, every share, every comment. So yeah, enough rambling. Let's get right into the video. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Of course, especially if this is not your first time here. And let's get right into it. All right, things I stopped doing in order to live a happier life. Number one, trying to be low maintenance. I actually saw a post the other day on Instagram that will go perfectly with this point. The post said, I used to say I don't ask for much, and then I realized that was the problem. I've said this before on my channel, but I'm gonna say it again. I really used to be a pick me, and when I say that in the sense of like, I used to try to dumb myself down to please other people, especially when it came to dating. I was that girl who really didn't require anything out of men in relationships. I mean, of course I wanted you to be faithful, but other than that, I didn't require that much. And I wore that low maintenance title like a badge of honor. I never let men do anything for me. Whenever we went out on dates, I felt like we had to split the bill 50-50. If I needed something, I never asked. If they wanted me to do something that I didn't want to do, I would just do it. Very low maintenance and very much giving pick me, because there were a lot of things that I did want, I just didn't want to ask. And I thought that I was getting some type of badge of honor for being low maintenance. It wasn't until I got a little older and I did a lot of self-work and realized why I was the way that I was, that I noticed that being low maintenance only got me the bare minimum. And if I was being honest with myself, I didn't want the bare minimum out of relationships, out of life, period. And I realized that in order for me to stop subjecting myself to bare minimum experiences, I had to stop faking like I was low maintenance. I had to raise the bar a little bit. Relationships are transactional, whether you want to admit it or not. And I feel like both parties in relationships should benefit from that relationship. There were men who were benefiting from being in a relationship with me, but I wasn't really gaining much. And I can't even really put that all on them because, I mean, who am I to say that they wouldn't have done the things that I wanted them to do if I said something? I don't know that because I never said anything. This was kind of my fault. Like, yes, a man can do certain things without you having to ask him or without you telling him. And yes, now I do believe that even if a man is with a woman who he knows is very independent, has a lot of masculine energy, he should come in trying to make her life easier. He should come in trying to do things for her. While I do believe that, I can also say that you should not play those type of mind games with men. Don't try to make yourself seem low maintenance to get more, because 9 times out of 10, if you're only requiring the bare minimum, you're probably going to get the bare minimum. When you go to work, if you know that you can do the bare minimum and still get the same pay, you're going to do the bare minimum. You're not going to do more work than what's required of you. We're human. That's how life works. We're going to do what we feel like we can get away with. Now, if you're really low maintenance, then okay. If you don't require that much out of relationships, okay, I'm not even gonna say you right or wrong. I'm not here for that today. But I will say that if you have needs and you have standards, you need to make the men that you're dating honor those standards. Stop trying to be low maintenance. Stop trying to not require much. Don't be dumbing yourself down for men. Make them come up and get it. Number 2, I stopped worrying about other people's opinions. I know I say this all the time. I've probably said this in like 5 to 10 videos at this point, but you cannot base all of your life choices on other people's opinions. First of all, people's opinions change every second. They'll like you one day, they'll hate you the next day. They'll think you're pretty one day, they'll think you look a mess the next day. We see it with celebrities all the time. One day you're hot, the next day you're not. And people's opinions change based off so many things, so you cannot allow everything you do to revolve around what everyone else thinks. When you get dressed, stop always asking your friends, do they like your outfit? Stop always asking your man if he likes your outfit. Stop asking everybody if they think you should get this hair color. Stop asking everybody if they think you should cut your hair. Stop asking everybody if they think you should start a business. Stop asking everybody about everything. What do you want to do? What do you like? Because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. If you're asking a bunch of people for their opinion, 9 times out of 10, you already have an opinion of your own. But what's going to happen is when you're hearing all these outside voices, you're going to end up silencing your own. And then another thing to keep in mind is that you cannot control the mind of anyone on this earth. So even if you're not going around asking people what they think you should do, what they think you should wear, how they think you should look, how they think you should act, if you're doing things with other people's opinion in mind and what they might say, you're still playing a dangerous game, because you can't control what other people think about what you do. Just because one person might like it doesn't mean that everybody else does. You can be getting dressed one day and say, I wonder if so-and-so is going to think that I look good. I wonder if so-and-so is going to think I'm the best looking girl in the party. But just because you put on what you thought they would like, that doesn't mean that they're going to like it. That doesn't mean that everybody else is going to like it. They might think you look fine. Everybody else in the party might think you look a hot mess. You cannot live to please other people. And yes, it is natural as humans for us to care about people's opinions to a certain extent. I don't think there's any way to really get rid of that, and I think anybody who says that they don't care about anyone's opinion about anything is lying. But you have to be very self-aware, and you have to know yourself enough to know what you actually like before other people tell you that they like or dislike something. And like I said, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is that you like what you're wearing, what you're doing, who you're in a relationship with, because you're the only person who has to live with those decisions. A lot of the time when people do things, I be thinking to myself, why would that person do that? But then I give myself a reality check and I tell myself, girl, that don't got nothing to do with you, and I move on about my life. And that's what everyone else is gonna do if they don't like something that you're doing. Number 3, I stopped allowing my life to revolve around men. I used to be the type of girl who was so immersed in my relationships that I really neglected myself as an individual. And I also neglected like my friendships and my family relationships. I literally only had a life if my boyfriend was busy. Like, I planned my stuff around his stuff. I would only make plans if he had plans. I would only hang out with my friends if he was hanging out with his friends. If my friends asked me to go somewhere, I would call my boyfriend first and say, hey, what you doing tonight? And if he was gonna be in the house, I was gonna be in the house. Like, everything was so my man, my man, my man. And if you're like that now, I get it, but honestly, it's not healthy. Like, you have to try to have some type of balance. Your whole life cannot be your man. Your whole life cannot be your relationship, your marriage, whatever. You have to still be an individual too, because if you are not, and you're only worried about being someone's girlfriend or someone's wife or just someone to someone, it's easy to lose your individuality like that. You have to know who you are outside of those titles. I had to figure out who I was outside of being a mother once I had my son. I didn't want to be that girl who only cared about being a mother, because there are so many more layers to me. There's so much more to me than being someone's girlfriend or being someone's mom, because I was a person before I became those other things. I knew that in order for me to really be happy and in order for me to have healthy relationships with everyone around me, I had to have some things that were meant for me. I had to have time for myself, alone time, self-care time. I had to be able to water my other relationships and not really be so fully immersed in one. Like, I have to have time with my friends. I have to have time with my family, because I cherish those relationships, and those relationships were there before I got into a romantic relationship. And I think part of it is boundaries. I said this in one of my recent videos, but I feel like I didn't really have good boundaries at that time, which in turn made me hate when my boyfriend set boundaries with me. Like I told y'all before, I wanted to live in his skin. And when he wasn't trying to live in mine, I was offended, because I was always checking with him to see what he was doing before I made plans with my friends. I expected him to do the same thing for me. Because I wasn't valuing quality time with my friends, I was offended by the way he valued quality time with his friends. And yes, I do believe that there should be some type of balance. Like, a man should not spend all of his time with his friends. A woman should not spend all of her time with her friends. But those platonic relationships are necessary, because I am not just a girlfriend and he is not just a boyfriend. There are other people in our lives that are important to us. It's unrealistic to think that I'm going to be the only important person in someone's life. So when I stopped allowing my life to revolve around men and my romantic relationships, I became more of a well-rounded person. And I also became an easier person to be in a relationship with, because I was not constantly smothering my partner and requiring that they spend all of their free time with me and give me all of their energy. That is draining. And now that I look back on it, I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me. I wouldn't want somebody to make me feel bad every time I decide I want to go spend time with my friends. I wouldn't want the person I'm with to make me feel bad for having a hobby. I wouldn't want the person I'm with to make me feel bad for loving other things and other people outside of them. It's unrealistic, it's unhealthy, And it's unfair, actually. Number 4, I stopped being so controlling. I used to try to control things and people all the time. It wasn't until I went through a period in my life where I was just super stressed, just super overwhelmed, and just very like down in the dumps. And at that time, someone said to me, you got to learn how to control the controllable. Stop trying to control things that you can't control. That's actually one of the mind shifts that changed my life. That video is still coming. I know I told you I was going to make it, but it's coming. I just used to be such a controlling person. Like, I didn't like not knowing what the outcome was going to be of certain things. I didn't like when people had the upper hand in certain situations. And these are things that I just like recently learned about myself. And it's actually one of the reasons why I couldn't live in my feminine energy. We're going to talk about that in a second. I had to learn to just let things happen because I realized that I was pointlessly stressing myself out about certain stuff and certain people. I remember one of my very first relationships where I got cheated on like hella times. I was always going through this man's phone. I was going through his social media. Like, I didn't want to find out stuff later on. And I also didn't want to be sitting there being happy with him just for him to be cheating on me. And every time he cheated on me, I would take him back. But every time I took him back, I would have an attitude with him like randomly, just because like nothing would be happening that I knew of, but I would feel like, nah, I can't get too comfortable with him. Like, I got to give him a little bit of attitude because he could possibly be doing something and I don't want him to think that he played me. Like, just trying to control the situation. When really, if I felt that way, I should have just left him alone, because me going through the phone and going through the social media and hitting girls up and just doing all this crazy stuff was not doing anything for me. It wasn't changing the fact that he was still going to do what he wanted to do. It wasn't stopping him, clearly, because he kept doing it. Like, a lot of the time when you try to control situations and control people, you get the opposite of what you want. You just got to learn how to let things flow. And no, I'm not saying go with the flow, because y'all know how I feel about that. Don't go with the flow, but choose your path and let things flow from there. Make your decision and let things flow. Let God control how things go, because at the end of the day, He gonna control it anyway. So you trying to control it and you fighting what He's trying to do, it's not gonna do anything for you. The only thing that you can control is yourself. Control yourself, control the things that you can control the controllables. Whatever is going on in your life right now that you don't like, relationships, friendships, your job situation, your living situation, your stress levels, whatever. Figure out what you can do to change that situation. Figure out the small steps that you can take to change the situation or to change something about the situation. Don't stress yourself out over the things that you cannot change. Do what you can. Control the controllables. Number 5, I stopped living in my masculine energy. I was living heavily in my masculine energy. As women, we have a mixture of both feminine and masculine energies, but my feminine energies were down here and my masculine ones were up here. Like, no type of balance. I had this very like dominant alpha type of vibe going on, and I really didn't like it, if I'm being honest. But I just felt like I had to be that way. Like, I don't feel like I ever felt safe enough to be soft and feminine. And when I heard the word feminine, I always thought that it meant like just being really girly, and you know, I like pink and I like to get certain things done and I like to let my man just cater to me. Like, I thought that it had to look that way, but it doesn't necessarily look that way. Living in your masculine energy can just be not accepting help, not asking for things that you need or want, being hyper independent and not knowing how to be interdependent, being really aggressive, not taking time out to take care of yourself, not taking time out for yourself, period. Those are some masculine traits that really resonated with me. Like I said before, whenever I went out to eat with a man, I always wanted to split the bill with him. And it's not because I wanted to, it's because I thought that men respected independent women more. And yes, I feel like to a certain extent you should be independent, but you have to also know how to be interdependent. You have to know when to allow someone to do something for you. Because as a woman, you should be able to sit back and relax and allow your man to do things for you. Not saying it has to be all the time, like you have to just sit there and take and not do anything. But you should be able to accept help. Even the most independent women need to be able to rely on a man for something. And then me being an entrepreneur since teenage years did not help at all. Like, hustle culture was real for me. I used to work from sun up to sundown. Like, however many clients I could fit in a day, I was fitting them in. I was always on the go. I was always just hustle, like trying to make money, trying to be able to do so many things for myself, because I didn't want anybody else to be able to say that they gave me anything or they did anything for me. I couldn't be soft because I had this hard exterior. I basically had to act like a man. Even a woman who has her own, a woman who has a business and knows how to hustle can still be taken care of. Like, you can have both things at the same time. And then I also learned that being taken care of isn't always financial, because you're not gonna always be dealing with a man who got all the money in the world. I remember my therapist asked me one day, like, do you really need someone to pay for everything, or are there other things that you need that are more important than that? Like, a man can have some money, but maybe he doesn't have all the money in the world. What can he do to make you feel taken care of? And I really had to sit and think about that. Like, what are other ways I can feel more relaxed and at ease in a relationship? What can a man bring into my life other than money that would make me feel at ease? And I realized it's someone being gentle with me, someone being able to help me with day-to-day tasks. Like, it could be as simple as just someone lightening my load. Whatever I may have going on that stresses me out, how can he lighten that for me? We can do a whole other video on that, but you know, that's just the brief version. And then I realized that a big part of me being able to be soft and feminine in a relationship was being with someone who had a good sense of direction, being with someone who I could trust to make decisions, being with someone who was really leading us and didn't have us going with the flow. It's really hard to be feminine when you feel like you have to take over everything all the time. If you're in a relationship with a man who you don't trust to make certain decisions, or if you're in a relationship with a man who is not leading y'all and he kind of just got y'all coasting, it's hard for you to be feminine. Your masculine traits are going to want to take over because you're not going to feel safe and you're not going to feel secure in where y'all are going. But like I said, another conversation for another day. Number 6, another thing I stopped doing was comparing myself to other women. Y'all know I talk about this all the time, but I used to really compare myself all the time to every woman. I felt the need to bring other people down in order to bring myself up. Like, I was fine as long as I was surrounded by people who I didn't feel like were a threat to me. And it hurts for me to even admit that, but it's the truth. The moment I was put in a room with women who I felt like my man would possibly want, or just women who I felt like were better than me in general, I just felt so less than. Like, I didn't know how to operate with two things being true at once, like me being great and this other person being great too. Everything was a competition to me, and that's why I was always comparing myself to other people. Sorry if the angle was different. My camera died. I know I freaking say this in every video, but anyway. I don't know what prize I thought I was winning by being in competition with every woman around me. And child, it better not have been a man, because who wants to be with a man who requires you to compete with every woman around you? If your man is that easy, like if all it takes is for another beautiful woman to walk in the room, for him to just leave you alone, then you probably shouldn't be with him anyway. I needed somebody to tell me that. And it's not even like I was treating these women a certain way. Like, I wasn't mean or nasty to women I was secretly in competition with. I was just at war with myself. Like, I let it eat me up inside. I let it make me feel less than. I let it make my self-esteem so low. You should not only feel good when you're surrounded by people who may not have as much stuff as you, or may not be as pretty as you, so you think. True confidence is when you're able to be confident no matter who else is in the room. Life is not a competition. Nobody gets surprised for being best dressed. Nobody gets surprised for being the prettiest. Nobody gets surprised for anything. I said that in my confidence video. If you have not seen that, I'll link it down below. Number 7, I stopped going with the flow. I am very intentional when it comes to literally everything. Like, not even just relationships, because I feel like when I first started practicing intentionality, I was practicing it in dating. Like, I was being very intentional about who I was dating. I had to make sure I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want so that I wouldn't end up in crazy situations. But then I started applying that to every aspect of my life. At this point, every move I make is calculated. Everything I do is calculated. Everything is strategic because it has to make sense. I'm not doing anything just for fun these days. I'm not trying to waste time. I'm not trying to waste money. I'm not trying to waste anything. Like, everything counts. Everything matters at this point. So I move with intentionality. You have to have a goal in mind and do what you need to do the necessary steps to get to that goal. Anything that does not lead you there needs to be over there somewhere. I'm not just trying a whole bunch of things just to see what sticks. You gotta put yourself on a clear path with everything. Y'all know I always say, you do not get on a plane without knowing the destination. The first thing you do when you're planning a trip is figure out where you wanna go. And then you work out all the small details that lead up to you getting to that place. And that's how everything should work in your life. No, everything might not go as planned every single time, but you have to put yourself on some type of path to get to where you say you want to be. Otherwise, having the goal and then just going wherever does nothing for you. It makes no sense when you really think about it. I'm not gonna say I want to go to Paris and then get on a plane that's taking me to Boston. That's dumb. All right, so that's my TED Talk for today. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. As always, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. I'm just hoping I don't beat history.